Hey everybody, Matt Kissane here. Out and about. This time we're downtown Chicago, and we are on our way to Navy Pier. Gonna go check out Navy Pier, and I'll tell you a little story about some of my favorite moments down at Navy Pier, mainly going to CHICAGOFEST. All right, Matt Kissane. We are down here at Navy Pier. It's definitely changed a lot since I started coming here back in the late 70s, early 80s. Go to CHICAGOFEST and see all those great bands, Cheap Trick and Joe Walsh, and what else did I see here? Steve Down, Teenage Radiation, the Elvis Brothers. There was so many great bands that used to play down here. Sort of like copied off of Summerfest up in Milwaukee. I guess the guys that produced Summerfest back in those days were hired by the city of Chicago to sort of replicate it. We just, changed the name to CHICAGOFEST. All right, we're down here at Navy Pier. I had to actually go inside because it's so windy today. You couldn't even hear me, but I was just going to reminisce about some of my favorite memories about CHICAGOFEST and coming down to Navy Pier back in my teen years. The cool thing about it is when you would come down here, there'd be so many stages and so many different types of food booths, pizza. You can just smell like the Gino's East pizza permeating throughout the entire festival. There was so much being made and so much being sold. It was all outdoors. There was really nowhere to go. Like if it was really hot, to cool down and get air conditioning. The only saving grace is if you could jump in Lake Michigan and cool off, which I think me and my buddy Joe did one year. But yeah, it was so cool. One of my favorite CHICAGOFEST Navy Pier stories is going back to August 40th anniversary, actually, of Cheap Trick performing their legendary CHICAGOFEST concert, which aired on WTTW and PBS Soundstage, and then it eventually became a classic concert on MTV for a number of years. But we were at that show, me and my friend Joe, and there was this not crazy guy, this eccentric dude from where we lived. He was older than us. His name was Roger Bonds, and I actually ran into him a few years ago. He's still around, and nice guy. I shouldn't say he was crazy, just a little eccentric, but we loved him. But anyway, we got to the Cheap Trick concert, and there was a huge line. I'm not kidding, man. It was like a mile long to get in. There was like 20,000 kids, and Roger was way up front, like way in the front. And we saw him there. We were like, "Oh, dude, Roger, you got to let us in, man. Let us stand with you, so we don't have to go all the way in the back, So he let us in, and I think we got in like the 10th row. It was such a cool show. Yeah. So one more memory from the 1981 Cheap Trick concert here at Navy Pier. There was an opening band for Cheap Trick that famous night, and they were an Australian band nobody ever heard of called Cold Chisel. So they came on stage, and everybody had these little pizzas, these mini pizzas. They were from like Gino's East, I think, and they gave you these little circular round things, like cardboard things to put the pizzas on. And so literally thousands of kids walked into the show with these pizzas, and then they had these little cylindrical like weapons that they threw at Cold Chisel throughout their performance. It was really cool. Yeah, so there's another story. Me and my friend Joe, before the show, we went down to the lakefront. We were going to go swimming. I think actually we jumped in the lake. We had our shorts on, and it was so hot that day that all of our clothes sort of like dried off, because it was so hot just from walking around. And while we were walking around, this dude come up to us, and he was just like trying to sell us pot. I remember that was we were just cracking up about that all day. Yeah, so these memories just keep coming back to me as I'm down here more. My 55-year-old mind can remember or absorb. But one of the fun memories I remember from the first time I went to CHICAGOFEST here at Navy Pier in 1979, 2 years before the Cheap Trick show. We were walking around. This time I was with my bud Rob Borowski, and Rob and I were walking around, and they had a booth for the Loop for WLUP, the rock station here in Chicago. And I distinctly remember seeing Sky Daniels, who was this famous rock and roll DJ from Chicago, introducing all these famous bands from back in the day, like Off Broadway and Cheap Trick and the Knack and Led Zeppelin and stuff. It was pretty cool. Sky Daniels. So somewhere over in this area, I'm not sure exactly where, but they had a rock around the dock rock and roll stage that some of the smaller bands would play, like local bands. And I know there's an infamous story about Cliff Johnson from Off Broadway. They were performing here, I don't know, sometime in the late 70s, early 80s, and Cliff actually jumped into the lake during the middle of the show. And he actually told me that story when I was interviewing him about 10 years ago on my web series. You could see that interview. It's up on YouTube and Vimeo with Matt Kissane interviews Cliff Johnson. All right, so I'm going to wrap this baby up. I hope you guys enjoyed my little tribute to CHICAGOFEST and Navy Pier in the old days. And I encourage everybody to go check out my special Facebook page. It's called Cheap Trick at CHICAGOFEST 1981. A lot of fun pictures and video links and memories on there. It's up on Facebook. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. And take a walk down memory lane. All right, take care, guys.